So let's say I'm just marking randomly right now, and let's see what happens, right? Once I mark the questions, I can quickly see the output as well. So basically what happens is that outputs are shown at the end of 10 questions. Sometimes in some simulations it has been kept to 5 questions, sometimes it has been Hello, students. A very good evening to all of you. I hope all of you are doing very, very well. Today, we are in the third week of our progress in virtual science labs and virtual learning platform, which is provided by Dr. Homi Baba Foundation and also Scholarlab. So, without wasting a lot of time, let's quickly start with our simulation for this week. As you know, that every week we have few simulations which we show, demonstrate, and that gives you an opportunity to learn those simulations, but at the same time, it also helps you understand how this tool of simulations really works, right? So, the two simulations which we are going to see today are both going to be from class 7th, and both of them are going to be from the subject of biology. Okay, so we are trying to finish as many topics of biology, as possible, and also simultaneously we are also looking at topics of chemistry as well as physics. So as you know that the tool which we are referring to is Scholarlab, and today we are going to first start with respiration. That is our first topic, and then later on we are going to go to transportation in animals and plants. Okay. So let's start with respiration first. As you all know, these are simulations, they are not videos. What that means is that unless and until you do a step, nothing is going to run on its own, right? It's not going to be automatic. So when we enter into the simulation for respiration in organisms, we see three tabs. Okay, respiratory system, lungs in action, and how do I breathe? Okay, let's try and see what each and every tab has in this. So let's start with respiratory system. So this is very interesting. What we have got over here is we've got a human, right? And as you know, all of the simulations have this quality of being able to drag to any angle and zoom in to any amount and then zoom out, correct? So we see that, okay, there is a person over here and the lungs are being highlighted. As you know, if you don't know what is the next step, then wait for 30 seconds and you would find that there is a highlighter which appears. If you click on the highlighter, then the next step would automatically start appearing. Okay, so here what we are understanding is what are the different parts of our respiratory system. So as you can see, right from here, from this point to the lungs, which is basically our nose, to the lungs, what are the different parts of our respiratory system? We can actually see and observe their placements in the body. So, for example, the first one is the nasal passage, right? This serves as where the main respiratory activity begins, and air travels through the nasal passage down to the trachea. So, as you can see, you can actually test yourself whether after reading the textbook you are able to find out each of the names of these points which are being mentioned over here, right? So as you keep putting as you keep on clicking on the next um, highlights, you will be able to understand what is the name of that particular part in the body. So like for example, here you have pharynx. So pharynx is a flap of the tissue located in the throat that regulates the air entering the nasal cavity and the food passage through the esophagus. So it's important, very, very important, that this part of the tissue helps us make sure that there's a difference between the nasal cavity from where the air is entering and also from where the food is entering, right? So this is very, very useful for all of us. Why? Because then this actually helps us in segregating the food and segregating the air. Also, as we keep going down, you would see it's talking about ribs. Ribs are the bony frame of the thoracic cavity, which protects the vital organs of the thoracic region of the body. There are 12 pairs of ribs that support the skeleton. Okay, so very interesting and useful for students as well as teachers, I would say. Why? Because you can actually use this for Viva, right? What a teacher can do is teacher can actually show a part of this respiratory system to a student and ask them what is the name of this particular part, right? So in that way, it's a very, very useful tool to understand, at the same time test the understanding of students. Perfect. So that is our respiratory system in organisms. Now let's see lungs in action. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean by lungs in action, right? So you see there are different um, activities which are being mentioned on the right, and we are going to see how do the lungs behave in these kind of actions. Okay. So for example, walking in the park, right? So you see when we walk in the path, the lungs behave in a particular manner. You see that the air is coming in and carbon dioxide is going out, the oxygen is coming in, right? And let's just click on any one of these parts and you will see that the alveolar sacs which we have, okay, during each breath, the minute sacs of alveoli contains a new supply of oxygen that the person has breathed in. Okay, carbon dioxide collected in the bloodstream is breathed out from the alveoli during exhaustion, okay, during exhalation. So this is what is happening, and I can actually show it to you from the other side as well, from the back as well, correct? So just keep a track of how does the rib move in case of walking in the park, right? Now check the other thing. In case of meditation, so you see, meditation promotes healthy life as deep breathing involves diaphragmatic breathing, which ensures maximum lung capacity. So here what we're doing is that when we were walking in the park, we were walking, but during the time of meditation, when we are breathing, then we are actually using the maximum lung capacity while meditating, correct? Then moving on to the next one, which is sprinting. So you see, when you're sprinting, you're actually pumping a lot of air out as well, at the same time pumping a lot of air in. And that's actually going to give you more energy. So sprinting on a track actually would show you that you are breathing much faster, correct? And an unhealthy lung is also something which has been mentioned over here. An unhealthy lung actually, as you can see, needs to breathe much more as compared to a normal lung. Okay, so an unhealthy lung has to be able to breathe multiple times faster as compared to a normal lung, which would require the same function to take lesser breathing time. Correct. Also, we can opt for a quiz where we can, mark these questions. We can answer these questions using uh, the quiz option which we have in all of our simulations, and you can just quickly just randomly mark a few questions, the answers to a few questions. So let's say I'm just marking randomly right now, and let's see what happens. Right, once I mark the questions, I can quickly see the output as well. So basically what happens is that outputs are shown at the end of 10 questions. Sometimes in some simulations it has been kept to 5 questions, sometimes it has been kept to 10 questions. So as you can see, the questions are appearing over here. You can also see whether which answer was actually correct, or which of the answers was actually correct, and what did we do? Did we do the right thing or did we do the wrong thing? Correct? So this actually helps us a lot in again testing ourselves, finding out what is the correct answer, and also understanding the topic much better. Okay, so I'm going to take it out from here. We have understood how the respiratory system works. We've understood what is the lungs, how do they function, what are the different parts of the lungs, and now how do I breathe? Okay, so when I say how do I breathe, we all know how do humans breathe, but here we are actually trying to find out how do various types of insects, various types of other living organisms except for humans, how do they take their breath, right? And also you would see that this is kind of like a quiz where you have to identify the main organ responsible for living organisms to breathe, for that particular organism to breathe. Now, you might have seen in the textbook, they have given this diagram, but they have also mentioned the label over here. Here we've not mentioned the label. The reason is because you should be able to find out what is the reason for a cockroach to be able to breathe. But if let's say you're not able to get what is the correct answer, and if you would like to get some help from labels, you can actually just click on this question mark. So when you do that, you would see that the names of whatever has been mentioned appears on that particular screen. The labeling appears. And now let's say, for example, you think that cockroaches may be breathing from air sacs. So I'm just going to click on B, which is the air sacs, and then move to the next one. Correct? So here we have a grasshopper. Now again, let's say I don't know the names. I can just click on question mark, and you will see that, okay, this is where the air sac is, this is where the aorta is, this is where the trachea is, this is where the sprinkles is. So let's say, for example, if this is where the breathing takes place, I'm going to click B and I'm going to move ahead. Correct? So like that, you can take this quiz as well. And once you take this quiz, you will be able to also understand how different animals breathe and really, survive in various situations. So that is what is the simulation. So as you can see, this is a very simple simulation which involves basics of breathing, correct? How organisms breathe, and then in those, first we discussed about humans, and secondly we discussed about various different types of animals. We can actually go ahead and just submit, and that will also give us the final result. Correct? Moving on to our next simulation for today. And this is also a very simple, very interesting simulation. It is called transportation in animals and plants. Okay. So, one more thing, students, since this is simulations from class 7, they are much less complex in the sense that they basically touch upon making sure that students understand the concept properly, and also at the same time we make sure that students are able to visualize the concepts more clearly. Correct? So this is the reason why simulations are very helpful even for teachers. um, Coming to this simulation, which is called the excretory system, right, in plants and animals. So let's really understand what is a circular system, circulatory system, how does it function, right? So concepts and systems, let's see what that is. To understand the functioning of a heart and circulatory system, what we are going to do is we are actually going to see what are the various things involved in that particular part. Okay, so I'm just going to click on our contextual help so that it can stop, giving us directions. And let's just try and analyze the heart from different angles. As you can see, this is something which is extremely important for, especially for teachers, when they're teaching how a heart actually functions, because a lot of times what happens is that students are unaware of where is the pulmonary vein, where is the atrium, where is the aorta. All of these things are not very easy for us to understand. So I think this is something which is going to be very, very useful for students, right? Then look at the next one. This is work and purify the heart. Correct? So that is the concept and the system. Let's also see some blood related activity. So I'm a yellowish liquid present in blood which allows different blood cells to float. What am I? Right? So the yellowish liquid which you see over here, that's actually plasma, correct? And what we are going to do is we're going to collect that, click that, and because this is red blood cells, right? RBCs. This may be kind of like WBCs. These seems to be platelets, so this might be plasma. Okay, and blood vessel which is oval in shape and helps in supply of oxygen. Who am I? So maybe it should be D because that's what hemoglobin does. um, the component of blood because of whom human blood gets its red color. So I think red color again, we get because of hemoglobin itself. So maybe we can put it like this, and just randomly putting a few more answers so that I'm able to show you what are the different types of questions which can appear. Okay, so there you go. And we can keep selecting and then submit. And as I told you, we can also see the results, right? Which are the answers which are correct, which are wrong. Those answers which are not correct, right? We also give the explanation of why they are not correct and what should have been the correct answers, right, for those questions. So I think this is great. What we've understood is how blood activity also was, and this is basic quiz activity because we have to actually match the heart rate with the activity which is being shown. So, for example, the first activity is of cycling, right? So, we have to try and match which heart rate over here for this particular lady is going to be most appropriate. So, just taking a guess here, maybe 60 to 100 BPMs might be great. For a child who's dancing, right? Maybe it can be close to around 100 to 160, right? If someone is just sitting there watching TV, how much should be the heart rate? It should be lesser, right? It should be around 60 to 100. If someone is having a heart attack, which means there's a big, big, very high heart rate, so I think I would go for 140 to 180. And if someone is just a little older and he's walking slowly, so the heart rate would be a little higher than at rest, but not very high as compared to the others. So maybe 75 to 128 would be the best guess. And as you can see, we have done most of it right, I think, right? So this shows how the heart quiz can be taken. Then comes the excretory system, right? So we have understood the circulatory system. Now we are going to understand the excretory system and then finally the transport system. So let's see what is their concept and system. Here, excretory system, as we all know, would involve kidneys. Why? Because your kidneys are the purifiers of blood in the body. So as you see, this is kidney, artery, renal artery, urinary opening, venal vein, urethra, urinary bladder, all of these things we can see over here. And you see, these are the kidneys. The heart pumps the blood to the kidney via the renal cavity. So as you can see that the heart is pumping blood to this cavity over here. Then what are we having? We are having harmful substances are absorbed and the blood is pumped back. Okay, this keeps happening. And the harmful substances are dissolved in water and sent to the bladder via the urethra. So this is the bladder, and through the urethra we are able to send the uh, uh, the water which has been contaminated in the form of urine, it will come out, right? The bladder stores and removes the unwanted material as urine via the urethra. So that's how our uh, you know the excretory system works. We also have a kidney quiz where students can decide what is the answer to that particular question written on top. So for example, here the question is, what is the shape of a kidney? So is it the form of a bean or a maize or a pea or an almond, right? What is the actual form of a shape of a kidney? So I think it's a bean. Like that, there will be multiple questions about the kidney. Please make sure that you are submitting it after you have marked the correct answer, or at least what you think is the correct answer, so that what happens is that the teacher will be able to evaluate these responses much more easily. Correct? So that is excretory system. And now finally we're going to talk about transportation systems in plants. So in transportation system in plants, we're going to do one very interesting activity. Okay. Now, as we all know, this is a 360-degree board. And let's say what we're going to do, we are going to find out what is the transportation activity in plants, right? So, as you see, there is a knife, it is being highlighted. So, I'm going to click that. And with the knife, what are we doing? We're taking a potato and cutting the top off. We're taking the potato and cutting its top off. Now, once we've done that, uh, we see that they have taken out some part of the potato, right? They've taken out some part of the potato, and we are going to see what is the next step. Let's say I don't know what is the next step, so we're going to take some water and we're going to put it in the petri dish, right? Okay, that's great. Now, once the water has been taken, we are taking sugar water, and we are taking this potato and we are putting it inside that petri dish. So please understand what have we done? We have removed the top of the potato. We have also done a small hole inside the potato. We have put it in the petri dish, and now we are pouring sugar solution through it. Okay. Now see what happens. We have put the sugar solution inside it. The next step is where we have taken a small kind of pin and we are putting it inside that potato. Okay, the timer has started. What are we trying to see here, guys? The transportation activity of this potato. So please understand, this is sugar solution, this is water. Water can move from one part cell to another, hence confirming the transportation of system in plants. So see, what really happened was that we had the water that can come from one plant center to another, and hence it confirms transportation in plant system. So this thing which was colored over here, right, that same color will start appearing at the bottom in the flask as well, and that actually shows that how water transports or how transportation happens in plants. Okay. Finally, there is a transportation quiz. Here we have xylem and phloem, and we have 8 cards. If I just pick out any one of the cards, it says this is 4 of hearts present inside the vascular tissue with no end walls between cells. So what is it? Is it a part of xylem or is it a part of phloem? So I think it's a part of xylem. So I'm going to click it over here and click it over here, and that card enters into xylem. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Lesser amount of tissue and conductive tissues are called lesser amount of tissues and conductive tissues in muscles are called no. So this is again, is it a part of xylem or is it a part of phloem? That is what we have to understand. So let's say it is a part of phloem. So we'll put it over here, and like that we can decide comprises of vessels, fibers, and trachea. So here, what is these two things? Out of these two things, what comprises of vessels, fibers, and trachea? So I think it should be xylem. So I'm going to put it over here, and like that, you can have this transportation quiz which you can attempt to be able to understand the concepts much better. All of these questions, please understand, are part of competitive exams, and these questions are very frequently asked in these competitive exams. So, for all of us who want to do better in such kind of exams, please, as you have taken the first step, please join Homi Baba Foundation. At the same time, please access these simulations through the dashboard of Homi Baba Foundation. I'm sure everyone will be able to reap the benefits of such an interesting technology. And I think I will take a leave from all of you. Thank you so much for joining in into today's call. It was a live call which we just finished. Tomorrow we are going to have two more activities, two more simulations which we are going to look into. But if you have any questions or any doubts, please put it in the comment or in the chat, and we would definitely want to get back to you. Also, thank you so much for participating and seeing the other videos, because this is the third week. So I expect all of you, all the students, कि आप लोग तीसरा वीडियो है ये आज का, तो आप लोग पहले की दो वीडियो भी जरूर देखिए। उससे आपको और चीजें सीखने मिलेंगी, और अगर आपको कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो आप उसको डेफिनेटली पूछ सकते हो चैट में। Thank you so much everyone for joining in. It was great session. I hope everyone learned something, and I'm sure you're going to make complete use of the simulations from Scholarlab. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Thank you.